your week is going well. We're excited to have you guys joining us tonight. We have a super we have a super great speaker for you tonight. I'm Brenna and I'm the treasurer of FPRA. Caitlin, who is our secretary, she handles the attendance. So if you guys haven't checked in the chat already, just go and check and type in all your information. If you want to say that quickly, Caitlin.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brenna. If you guys could go ahead and enter this for our sake and for your sake, it makes you eligible. If you attend 5 or more meetings, you do get honor cords at graduation, which is pretty cool. So if you could go ahead and let us know your first and last name in the chat, as well as your ego mail, your estimated graduation date, your major, minor, UIN, all that good stuff. We'd really appreciate it. And if you forgot any of it, I will be reminding you guys in the chat.
So our great speaker for tonight is going to be Nina Barbero. I hope I'm saying your last name right. And she is a marketing and communication manager for Southwest Florida Inc. She graduated from FGCU in 2016. So she was in your shoes not too long ago. So I think that's a great quality in a speaker. So we appreciate all the time you're giving us tonight. If you want to just like jump right in or need anything from us.
Sure. Well, it's nice to see such good participation here. I know it's tough to do like a 6 o'clock Zoom meeting, but this is really good. So I do marketing and communications for Southwest Florida Inc. We're the regional chamber of commerce. We actually rebranded last August from the Bonita Chamber of Commerce. So that was a really exciting project to be a part of. So we have a very small team. So I'm technically the only like marketing is my job person. We also have a events and marketing person who sort of helps out with some of the event marketing. And then we have someone who part of his job involves content management. So he works on our podcasts and blogs and guest editorials and things like that. So the main functions of my job have changed a lot since I started there. I've been there for 5 years now. So it involves a lot of very writing heavy, a lot of creating editorials, columns, pulling together advertising, graphics. I do our social media and our social media strategy. So looking at data and seeing what people are clicking on, what people are interested in, and really doing anything I can to make sure that we're providing business services to as much of the small business community as we can. And then graduated 2016. My degree was economics with a minor in journalism. So that's sort of what drew me to this job in particular, because it's a very business oriented job, but with a lot of writing involved. And that's what I've always considered one of my strong points. And then leading up to this job while in college, I had a few internships that also helped me towards working towards a PR career. So I did a that kind of made me realize in comparison to other jobs I'd had that was something that's super important, because you spend so much of your life at work, so you need to be really happy. And then I also did an internship in the US Senate for Marco Rubio's office as the press intern over, I think, the summer of my junior year. And at that point, I was really considering working for a think tank after graduation, and working in the DC culture kind of steered me away from that, because it's sort of the atmosphere is very much everyone's always updating their resume, because you don't know if your guy's going to get reelected or what's going to be happening or where your funding will go if you're in a think tank. So it definitely steered me more towards communications, and it's been a great career path. So I don't know if you guys have questions or if I should keep talking.
Yeah, I definitely have a question like right off the back. Like you have like such an impressive like set of experience with all the internships, and I feel like you probably picked up a lot of tips and tricks. Do you have like any that you would like give to students now that are about to graduate or planning like to go into the career field, and what they should do to look for? Because like you said, like you were going back and forth and it really helped you pick out what you wanted to do. So I feel like that'd be helpful.
Yeah, so definitely do as many internships as you can, because it definitely like everything I did really steered me towards the direction I'm in now. And if I had not done those, and if I had gone through certain career paths, it would have taken me longer to get to something that I really enjoy. So definitely do a ton of internships. I would also say be really honest about what you're looking for when you're interviewing with an employer, because I've interviewed a lot of people for positions at my job, and I know that there's really no point on kind of faking it and pretending you want a job when you don't, because then you're just setting yourself up for not being happy and not doing well, and that's no good. And then I would also say focus on picking up, sort of like set yourself up for success by picking up different skills. Like it's really important right now if you're going to PR that you get really familiar with Canva, and it doesn't, which is a graphic design website. I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar with it already. And also Audacity for audio editing, and then get familiar with at least like one video editing software, because those are things that come up, and if you're not familiar with them, they can take a long time to learn. And then I would also recommend, if you don't have any writing samples, probably reach out to Eagle News on campus and see if they're looking for writers, because it really helps when you're looking for jobs to have like clips that have been published that you can say like, this is what my professional writing looks like. And it just gives you like that much more credibility.
We have Valena, who's actually from my marketing class. Hi, Valena. She says, I'm having such a hard time finding an internship. Do you have any like recommendations of how like you found your internships, or like what sources you used?
Yeah, for at least one of them, maybe two of them I used like Indeed.com. Maybe one of them was LinkedIn. And then the Senate internship sort of came to my attention because one of my professors mentioned it at the end of class one day and was like, oh, there's this thing. I don't know if anyone wants to do it. And I was like, obviously I want to do that. So I would say pay attention in class and go to your professor's office hours, especially now if you're about to graduate, because they can, if you're not about to graduate, they can help you find internships, because they like have a lot of knowledge and they're just sitting there waiting for someone to come to their office hours. So you can be that person for them and they can help you a lot. So that'd be great if you're looking for an internship. If you're looking for a job, it'd be great to go to their office hours and sort of establish a good relationship with them now before everybody else, like the week before graduation, starts doing it, because they can sort of keep their ears open and sort of like keep you in mind when they hear about things and let you know. So I would say like establish good relationships with your professors.
I have a quick question, Nina.
Yeah.
I was doing some research on you, and I found out that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you manage the communications for 300 businesses or companies within Southwest Florida. Is that correct?
It's actually up to 1,080 now.
Wow.
We just updated our number today.
Wow. What does PR look like for a professional who is like, what does the life look like for a PR professional who has to manage so many different companies? I mean, I'm sure that they all come with, you know, different styles of speaking as well.
So we just sort of changed our membership model. So right now what we offer, think of a chamber as sort of like businesses can join it, and we put together things for advocacy, and our CEO goes to Tallahassee and lobbies and goes to DC and lobbies for their interests. But it's also sort of like a small business can buy a full page ad in the Naples Daily News for like $1,400, or they can pay for a membership with us and we'll do all the ad buying for them and include them throughout the year, sort of a thing. So it's not managing their day to day, it's actively working to promote them every day. So it's gotten a lot easier the way we do it now, which is much more of an a la carte, like buy the service that you want versus everybody gets everything all the time. But it's definitely interesting to work with that wide variety of businesses, because you're right, they do have very different tones. And you'll find like when you're working with very small businesses, they might not even have a marketing person. So they'll say like, oh, I want to advertise in this thing that you're doing. And you say, okay, great. Like the specs are this, send me the ad. And they're like, can I make this for me? Versus working with like OE Health or like Naples Daily News or someone where they have entire departments that are dedicated just to advertising for them. So it's definitely a wide range with very different needs. Which keeps it exciting because you're never working with the same people and you get the chance to see how everybody else operates.
Thank you.
Going off of that question, so like since you work with so many different people, do you find that your day to day, like each day is completely different, or do you kind of have like a set routine and like certain things you do every day?
That's a good question. They're kind of, I think you'll find this if you're working in like on a small team anywhere, that you kind of go through phases where you're more tactical or where you're more strategic. Um, so I do have some things that I do day to day, and I have certain deadlines that I meet every week. Like we always have a column in Florida Weekly. So like Tuesday, I'm always writing the Florida Weekly column, things like that. Um, but when you're going through more of a strategic phase and you're looking at data to see what's working, like for example, right now we're feeling very strategic. And yesterday we did a half day like video shoot at a studio in Fort Myers. So like my week was prepping for that, like writing the scripts, making sure my CEO was good with the scripts, getting prepared, making sure the studio had all the B-roll we wanted them to use, and then like going with her to the shoot and doing that yesterday. So it's very different, but there are some things that you'll do every day.
Brianna actually has a question in the chat. She says, do you have any advice for those who are graduating during this scary time? I'm getting worried about finding a job after graduation.
Ooh, so I don't want to sugarcoat it too much. I wouldn't worry too much. I think with the climate the way it is in like previous decades, marketing jobs or like marketing or PR jobs are sort of the first to go when somebody needs to make budget cuts. But I think now, especially with social media and especially with the reputation of your company being able to change so quickly with bad PR, I think people are looking for those marketing positions and they're going to hang on to them. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. But sort of on that note, I would make sure when you're interviewing for jobs that you ask the person what their company did during COVID, because I think that will give you a good gauge for how they treat their employees and like how seriously they took sending everyone home and making sure everyone was safe, or were they like keeping everyone there until April when they were like mandated to let them go home.
That's a really good point that I haven't heard anybody bring up. Thank you, Nina.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the end part. Yeah. I think I'm interested, especially since you work with so many different companies and so many different voices. Has there been like a moment in your career working with Southwest Florida Inc. that you went like, oh my goodness, like how am I in this position? How am I working with this company? Like how am I in front of this person? Have you had those moments?
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think of like a really good one though.
Yeah.
There was I think this was my first or second year. I got to go on a lobbying trip to Tallahassee, and we took a really small like charter jet thing, which I'd never been on before and was really cool. But I am very short, so they made me sit in what's called the jump seat, which is like not really a seat. It's like you're sitting on the edge of this like window ledge thing right by where the door would open if the plane was about to explode. So that was very exciting. I would say that was a very memorable moment. At some point, we had a contract with a lecture series that was bringing in some pretty cool speakers. So I got to meet a couple CEOs and like a female astronaut and some pretty cool people through that as well. I don't know, there's definitely a lot out there, even in like Southwest Florida, and Bonita and Estero can feel pretty small, but there's a lot of pockets of really interesting people that I've been excited to get to meet.
Sure. Thank you.
I have a quick question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I know that I was in the class for nonprofit, so I also met you and I heard your little spiel in class. So thank you for that as well. I know that you say that you like writing. I know that you have a lot of different jobs in graphic design and needing to know Canva, but I know that you said you really liked writing, and I also really enjoy writing. And I know that you did freelance writing, right, for a little bit after graduation. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So that started with I worked on the school paper for all 4 years, and then I graduated, and I reached out to the news press because I was still I think it took me 2 months after graduation to get in the job that I'm in now. So at that time I wasn't working, so I reached out to the news press to see if they needed a freelancer. So I did like piecemeal articles for them, just a couple of those, which was good because it was definitely not a lot of money, but it was definitely bringing something in that I otherwise wouldn't have been. And then from there, the FGCU Alumni Magazine reached out to me and said like, hey, we saw you were doing this. Do you want to write for us too? Which I still freelance for them. And I love doing that. They're so nice to work with. And then other publications I worked with have all been sort of like me seeking them out. So I would say if there's a certain topic or sort of like a niche industry that you like, that you're interested in, go ahead and reach out to them and just say like, hi, I'm interested in freelance work. I would definitely try to get some clips from the school paper so that you have something to send before you approach like a different publication. But yeah, just be very sort of short and sweet and to the point with your emails, or give them a call because they'll be very surprised that anybody called them, and probably that'll put you to the top of the pile. But I would definitely recommend freelancing to anyone just because I still do it. It's fun. It's an additional way to sort of meet new people. So that's been really good.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of have a question that goes along with that. So I'm currently in an internship where I'm writing some press releases, but it is not the same style that I've learned in Professor Witten's classes. Did you kind of run into that too, that, you know, you learn a standard press release, but then the place that you work has a different template for you?
No, no, because I was always trained with AP style, and that's what we use at the chamber.
Right.
But I have noticed that with like some of the publications where I'm writing more journalistic pieces, they do like Chicago style or AP style.
Mhm.
So it's all about just sort of going with the flow with whatever their editor sort of wants you to use. Before you reach out, I would definitely read some of their more recent articles or read things written by the person you're reaching out to and see, sort of gauge the style that way too. But they're usually very clear about how they want you to write stuff out.
Right, definitely. Cool, thanks. I was just curious.
Yeah.
I have more of like a broad question, just because I know like in like comp PR, like if you can go anywhere with it. Obviously you graduated from FGCU and then you stayed in Southwest Florida. Do you think it's easier to find a job like where like you graduated from, or do you think it's easier to like spread out and find a job like say Tampa or Bradenton or?
I think anywhere. For me, a lot of my friends were still here after graduation, so I really just kind of wanted to stick around. But I mean, you're still graduating with a really good college degree, so anywhere you want to be, just start looking. It might help right out of college to be local if your like references are local. So my job references were people that are like a big deal in the area, but not a big deal anywhere else, which is fine. But that kind of helped me because the people they were talking to like understood like, oh, okay, like this person who I know is telling me that she's like a good hire. So maybe at first stay local and then go somewhere, or just pick up and go. I don't think it makes too much of a difference.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a question that's like actually kind of similar to that. Basically like I'm a junior, so like I have time, but I feel like I'm always like worrying about like how I'm gonna transition like after graduation and everything. So since like you're kind of like 5 years out, like do you have any tips for like how you kind of like made that transition from like being in college and having all that going on to just like doing a full-time job and like kind of like figuring everything out like post-college?
I think you'll love it, Heather. It's really nice to not have so many things going on all the time and to have a consistent schedule, and to still have a social life and still have things to do. So it was a transition, but it was a really good transition. I think when you're in school, you get really used to like the chaos, and like you always have a million things going on, and you have classes at different times all the time and different assignments due. So it's like stressful in a different way, but it's also really nice to have that consistency of doing a full-time job. And the nice thing is you come home from work and you can do whatever you want versus coming home from work and like, oh no, I have to like get ready for finals or write a paper. Like your time is your own now.
Thank you. Yeah, that actually, like when you put it like that does sound nice. Like not having like
yeah.
homework and like all the other things that like are going on and just like being able to focus on one thing.
Yeah, yeah, I will say I do really miss like being in a dorm and being like
Mm.
in the same room as all the time. But you guys can just move into apartments that are next to each other. It'll be fine. It'll be good.
That's true.
I have another
Question.
question.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
There's like five of us talking at the same time. Um, since you work with like so many different organizations and you get to do so many different projects and tasks and all of that stuff, is there like a client or an organization or a project or something that you like doing the most?
Ooh, that's a good question. Hmm. I would say, I mean, I really liked working on our rebrand project because that was a lot of fun because the group of people who I work with now, we've all been on the staff for about the same amount of time. So we all sort of grew into our jobs together and we all, our rebrand involved changing our model. So we all sort of at the same time were seeing the same things and got to brainstorm together and be like, this isn't working. What do you think about this? So that's definitely my favorite project I've worked on because it was the culmination of years of us brainstorming together and it felt like everybody had a lot of input and it felt like a really good team effort. Plus, it was super fun to come up with all the new branding and to sort of when you rebrand, you change so many of your internal materials and some of your processes. So it felt like we were like rebuilding the whole organization, which was really cool. I would say recently we have an annual visitor guide that we've done for like, I want to say 15 years or something. And this year, for the first time, we sold all the ads in house and we wrote all the editorial and we designed the graphics and everything and we had it printed locally. So that was a project that felt really good to do because for the first time we weren't going through a publisher, it was all in house. And that was just a really good proud moment for I think all of us.
That sounds super cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So I am a PR major and a journalism minor, and I'm noticing now that my minor in journalism has like helped me a lot in my public relations studies, which is something I didn't expect as much as it is. But how have you found personally, like actively in the job of PR and marketing, to have like that journalism background, especially as a freelance writer for many publications? Like, what is it like? How does it benefit you?
It definitely helps a lot because I think at the core of journalism, it's really about getting to the point really fast, which like you would not believe how many people are running a business who can't do that. So it's a journalism background and a PR background, both really focus on being more articulate in how you write. And that's a really strong feature to have even for writing emails, like even how to write an email that's not like 5 paragraphs and doesn't have any typos. It's really hard for a lot of people to do that. So it's definitely a good skill set that might not be the focus of the program, but it's really like the foundation for everything else you'll do.
Thanks.
I have another question. So during the like height of the pandemic, did you find that any of your tasks drastically changed or anything like that? Like, did you have to take on more responsibilities, less? I mean, I'm sure it was more, but
So the pandemic happened at a very weirdly convenient time for us because we had just switched to a new software and we were prepping all the materials for the rebrand. So our organization hosts a lot of events and they take a lot of time to plan and promote and put on. And often they take a lot of staff members to put on, and we have a very small team. So being able to have a reason to not host any events really worked in our favor in like kind of an ironic way. So a lot of our like staff time and especially my time was kind of freed up, which was good because we were like prepping brand new materials for everything else. So it was
Nice.
busy, but it was busy in a much more manageable way than it would have been without a pandemic, which is shocking. I think we're
Right.
we're probably the only thing that would be like, oh my God, the pandemic was so great for us. But yeah, so it probably would have been unmanageably busy without the pandemic.
Yeah, I was just curious because I worked on the Lee Cares program for a while, and they had their human services grant, just since your company or your organization also works with businesses within Southwest Florida. I just didn't know if you did anything similar to that as well.
Yeah, so we weren't in charge of any grants. We were doing a lot of email blasts and things like that, and helping people get to the point where they could apply for the grants, or at least letting them know they're available and how they can apply, that sort of a thing. So we did a lot more like pumping out information, but that sort of replaced our normal like promoting our stuff. But yeah, that was good work on Lee Cares. That's cool. What did you do for them?
Not too much. It was more, it was kind of promotional, kind of like what you were saying. But I don't know how the communications major got this task, but I was a fiscal approver for the budgets. So people would put in their applications, and then I would approve the budget and send it over to our procurement office. So
very cool. Well, good work.
But thank you. Yeah, I was just curious if you guys did anything kind of similar to that as well. So
yeah.
Brianna actually has another question. She said, can you go more into detail about the graphics that you make for the businesses? What is the process from idea to completion and presentation? I'm also a digital media design major, so I will hopefully be in a similar position making graphics for others.
Cool. Okay. That's a great position to be in, because everybody needs like a really good freelance graphic designer, especially small businesses, because they can't afford entire departments. So they really rely a lot on freelancing. And for like our big stuff, we have a freelance graphic designer that we use for like our really big design, who like designed our logo and things like that. So for the graphics that I do, and now we have a new team member, so I'm kind of pushing a lot of it on her, because she really likes it. Getting graphics for social media up. We have advertisements in Gulf Shore Business Daily, Southwest Florida Business Today's website, Naples Daily News, the News Press, the banner. So a lot of ads that we do, we call shop local ads. So they're set up. I have a few different templates that we end up using. So they're set up so that they can sort of spotlight like 10 to 15 businesses, and then it's all about sort of like pulling a photo of, like we did one that was for restaurants. So like pulling good food photos and crediting the restaurant and including their contact information. So pretty simple graphics, and the ones that I work on usually don't have a lot of say from the businesses, because they're paying like for a year's worth of membership and they'll get featured like twice. So I don't really meet with them beforehand a lot of times. I just tell them afterwards, like, hey, here's the link, you were featured here. Our freelance graphic designer does a lot more sort of like traditional client meetings, because the items she's working on for them will be ads specifically for them, not like a bulk buy ad with everyone else. So she does a lot of like one-on-one client meetings to sort of see what the client likes, like
I think we lost you there for a minute.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, you're back. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Where did I leave off?
I think we just missed the tail end. You were talking about your freelancer, how she works with the clients to bring their
like
yeah, she sort of pulls together. She's meeting with them a lot to see sort of like what the general look they're going for is, and often they don't know. So what she usually has them do is like what we did when we were looking for a logo is we pulled the list of like a ton of local logos that we didn't want to look anything like, and we pulled a list of different logos from around the world that we did like, and we kind of sat with her and we're like, well, we like how this one is stacked capital letters, and we like the bright colors of this, and we hate how this whole group uses like just green and blue. or like how everybody uses palm tree leaves on everything. So her client meetings are a lot of, because they don't necessarily know the direction they want to go, it's easier for them to explain where they don't want to be and the kinds of things that they do like. I don't know if that answers your question at all.
I have another question.
Yeah.
So I work for an agency, so I work with a lot of different clients and organizations, and I feel like something I had never heard anybody talk about beforehand is how difficult it can be sometimes to work with outside organizations. Of course, there's like a ton of perks and it's really fun to get to work with other people, but I know sometimes we have a lot of trouble with even just, getting people to reply to us and communicate with us and stuff like that. And I just wondered if you experienced that too.
Yes. And I think that's something you'll experience everywhere always. And it's sort of a balance of, if they're not a client and there's someone you're trying to work with, like we book a lot of event venues. And sometimes when you realize someone's hard to work with, you realize it's not going to be worth the end product, because you're going to be so stressed out about, are they going to get back to me? Are they going to bail at the last minute? So it's kind of a balance of, if somebody's so difficult now, just like imagine what it's going to be when you're waiting for them to finally pay you for the thing you did. So yeah, you kind of have to gauge the is it worth it level a lot of times. With clients, it's also tricky, at least from an agency standpoint, because you have to sort of justify every minute that you spent and everything you're charging them for.
Really quick, Nina, just a heads up that your microphone and video did cut out. I think no, it's totally okay. It cut out when you started talking about how the communication when it gets to the point where you're trying to ask for your payment, like, and keeping into consideration like all the time and all the effort and energy that you put into the product.
Yeah. So I would say at a certain point, and this is something that your whole team will sort of decide together. At a certain point, the client's not worth it. But if you need somebody to get back to you and they're not getting back to you, I've had situations where I've like gone to their office in the middle of the day when I know they're going to be there, or like call a bunch or email a bunch. The secret a lot of times is to get a hold of if they have an administrative assistant, like that person knows everything and knows where they are and knows the answer to all of your questions. So sometimes it's a matter of you're not trying to reach the person who can actually help you.
That's a really good point, because I find with us, we work with a lot of smaller clients. So it's just, a couple people doing everything. And so they're just so busy that we kind of just fall off their radar sometimes. They're just like, oh, they're good, they're handling it. And then the minute we need something from them, they're just, doing 1,000 things running our organization, which is understandable.
Yeah, and it's like restaurants are always super hard to work with because it's exactly that. Like they're so busy. A lot of businesses, you'd be shocked, like don't even check their email. Like I was at a chiropractor's office once and was talking to her about something, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I see that I have a bunch of emails. I just haven't read any of them from you. Sorry. Like, what did you need?" So depending on the business, like people who are on their feet, like doctors, restaurants, people who are not sitting at a desk are often very hard to get a hold of.
That's interesting that you say that, because now that I think about it, the client I'm thinking of is a restaurant.
Yeah, so they're the kind of situation where sometimes you just have to show up and be polite about it. Don't be like, I sent you a million emails and you never get back to me. But just be like, hi, I was in the area, even if you had to drive 45 minutes to get there, and I just thought I'd stop by and see if you could get back to me about that sponsorship, and like have all your materials there and have everything printed, and like if you need their credit card information, like literally bring like your phone with the credit card swipe so you can get it right there. So some people you really have to cater to their schedule.
That's great advice. Thank you.
I have a question concerning your APR certification. I know that I believe you got it recently, and I think from like a PR student's perspective, you just like hear about all of these PR professionals getting these certifications. You're like, oh my gosh, I just like graduated college. But what was that experience for you?
For me, I loved it because I didn't have like a communications PR background. So it was really nice to sit through the study sessions and get like the foundation and to get like, here's RPI and here's the process you should be following for everything. That'll make your life so much easier and so much more organized. So I really liked the process. It was also nice because there were, I think, 6 other people going through the sessions with me, and they all worked in different industries. So it was cool when you're talking about your day and talking about how, oh, this thing we just learned about applies to each of our jobs, and this is how it applies there. It was really nice to see how things work in different industries and sort of like the different shades of the PR profession. So I loved the whole experience. I mean, it was very time consuming, but it was very worth it.
How long did it take you to earn your certification from like the time you began? Hold on, I can't hear you.
We might be frozen on her end too.
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted to do my presentation on the rebrand, so I waited until August when that actually happened, and then waited to like sort of like collect data to see the results of the rebrand, and then submitted everything and did the presentation and took the exam like October through December.
Okay.
So like less than a year if you put it all together.
Less than a year. So it came back on, it did cut out. It came back on when you were talking about, I think it's frozen again. I think we're frozen right now.
I think so too.
Yes. That's so interesting though, like when she was talking. Okay, hi, can you hear us now? Okay,
No, you're good. We constantly have these problems. It's just the fun of doing things over Zoom.
I didn't realize my internet was so bad until tonight.
No, I think that all of our internet connections like go in and out when we're on Zoom. It's okay. Yeah. So it came back on when you said that you were finally like working on your final project and you were getting your stats back. What were you mentioning from like the beginning of when you started talking about your certification?
Oh no.
We still can't hear, I don't think.
No, I can't hear either.
Oh, it's happening.
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But I don't know if we can hear you. Hold on.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
I can hear you.
So I heard you say get your stats back. Is that where I cut out?
Yeah, well, no, that's when you came back. That's when you came back in. Yeah.
Okay, so study sessions, January through April. And then the rebrand that I did the case study on was like August through early October. And then I submitted everything, did the panel presentation, and took the exam October through December. So like a little more than half a year if you push it all together. But the like process as a whole was January to December.
And were you like actively working with a company when you were getting your certification, or was it more of like a mock situation?
So I got it this year. So I was working full time at the current company that I'm at.
Oh, okay. So is that how most people do it? They just do it with the company that they're working with?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no.
We were doing so good at the beginning.
Oh, is it cutting out again?
You're back now.
So usually they want you to have like 4 to 6 years of experience, I think, before you start the process.
Okay. That's super interesting.
I have another question about the certification, because I think we hear a lot about it and we know that it helps you with like your professional development and professional growth. But what are the benefits of like having the title, like the APR title?
Ooh, good question. I mean, it is a professional designation, so I think it shows other people that you actually care about the profession you're in and that they can sort of trust you to do a really high quality job with projects that you're on. I would say that's probably like the biggest professional benefit. For me, it helped a lot with how to organize projects I was working on, because I'd never been exposed to RPI, and it's super helpful. So it's really affected how I present data and how I go into campaigns now, because I'm doing a lot more research and deciding like, oh, is this tactic actually the right fit for this audience?
That's really interesting. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question that's still relating to all that? How did you like, and I don't know if you kind of already answered this, but like decide like, okay, this is when I want to like go like start deciding like I want to get the certification? Like what exactly did that look like? Or was it just you reaching the amount of time, or was there like something that made you decide that?
The CEO of my company has hers, and she asked me at like my annual review the year before, like, oh, hey, do you want to start going for this? And I hadn't really thought of it. So it just seemed like a sort of an interesting new thing to work on. And I just felt like I finally had enough under my belt that I felt like confident going into the study sessions, and that I would actually sort of really benefit from learning more about it. So it was just sort of happenstance when I started the process.
And you said you started your certification in January. So was that January of 2020?
Yes, which was fun because our study sessions went virtual like halfway through. So that was interesting. What was even more fun was that half of our study group is in the healthcare field. So they all had to stop doing what they were doing because they were all of a sudden working crazy overtime doing PR for like Lee Health and Physicians Regional. And so it was an interesting time to be working on the designation.
Sure. Yeah, that's super cool. Well, you know what I mean. Interesting, like cool, interesting way. Yeah.
I have one last, or not one last, but I have one more question. So I know you were talking about Canva and audio and videography and all that good stuff, and that it's good to learn now. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'm speaking for everyone, but I have not learned any of that in my classes, but I'm also not in marketing. I'm just communications and PR. So I don't have any of that under my belt. So I want to get a move on that. Is there anything that you're still learning? Like, is there anything you want to learn, or do you already know, or?
Yeah, I definitely need to get way better at video editing, which is why I brought it up, because if you guys can start now, then you won't still be like, oh my God, what am I doing 5 years from now? So yeah, definitely practice. I think like myself and our technology and content manager are both we're both very into learning new softwares and things like that. So we both watch a ton of YouTube videos all the time. So that's where I'd recommend starting is just like find a good like marketing YouTube channel that can teach you the basics of everything and just go with it.
Thank you. Yes, I will definitely be looking on YouTube for something Canva related.
Yeah, and Canva, you can just go to canva.com. It's very user friendly. You can set up a free account. It has templates for everything, which if you follow us on Facebook, you'll see we use 10 million Canva templates. It looks really good, but we didn't make it up. We took it from there. So it's like fun to use. We have an almost like 30-hour week intern now, and like we've had her making a ton of graphics, and she had never used it before and she loves it now. So that you can just sort of hop on and practice. Everything else, I would just sort of look up how-to articles and YouTube videos.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Does anyone have any more pressing questions that they just have to get out? Or is there any like little questions that you guys want to just like pop in there, just like little personal one, like, hey, like, what's your favorite experience? Actually, I'll ask that. What's been your favorite experience, like overall through your career?
I would say not to talk about the rebrand more, but I would say that's been the coolest thing that I've done so far, PR related. It was a lot of fun and it was a lot of building something new, which felt really good.
Any more questions, guys?
I think it's safe to say that we are good to go. Is there anything that you would like to mention, Nina, that like you wanted to talk about throughout today before we close things out?
No, I would just say sort of follow interesting accounts and sign up for newsletters and keep reading whatever interests you, because you can always pull from different industries and sort of be inspired by anything you're reading and anything you're hearing. So just sort of follow your interests, and I think that'll really educate your career no matter what career path you're in.
Thank you so much. I feel like you answered a lot of our questions. I think some of us had questions that like we didn't expect to ask. Yeah, no, we really appreciate your experience and your insight. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight, Nina.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah, I
thanks,
definitely
guys.
think we'll have to do more Q&As like this, because we tend to do more of like presentation style meetings, and we always open it up to questions at the end. But I think by then we've all been here, you know, listening to the presentation for so long, and after a full day of work or school, everybody's kind of like, you know, okay, I heard the presentation, like I don't need to ask too many questions. So it was nice just to have like a designated time to ask all those questions that we always want to ask.
Especially someone who has so many different connections and so many years of experience under your belt. So
Yes.
Well, thanks. And thanks for having me. And then Brenna has my email address. So if anyone has another question that they didn't want to ask here, just ask her and you can email
absolutely.
me.
Really quick on that note, Brina, do you mind actually, is there a way for you to put Nina's email in the chat box just for any of our members who are on board?
Let me grab it.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much, Nina. Have a good Thursday night.
You guys,
Thank you.
have a good rest of your day.
Thank you to everybody who
Thank
came.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's just have Brina put that email in the chat box so it's there.
Oh, there it is.
Perfect. Thank you all so much for coming. I think we all felt like this was a really valuable experience for us to just ask those pressing questions that we have as PR students and to a PR professional. Thank you all so much, and we look forward to seeing you not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after.
Thursday.
Sorry, we're tired. We're all very tired.
Yeah.
Bye, Bree. Thanks.
Bye.
Hi, Heather.
Bye.